Okay, so the first thing was you have to do every bit of these items on the list for full credit, except for the flow design. So we're going to fillet first, then shell, and then loft, and then sweep something. So fillet, you need to figure out where, of course, there's a curve on your vehicle. Probably the front view will show you that more than anything. So if I got my front view here, yeah, it looks like there's not a lot of curves in this thing. There's some at the top, it looks like maybe right here, and some at the bottom, and maybe on the fenders a little bit. So I'm just going to kind of guesstimate on that a little bit. This is more not meant to be crazy accurate anyway. So this thing is only 10 inches long, so probably an eighth of an inch or a quarter inch fillet would work out the best. So I'm going to pick fillet here, and they're not all going to work. Okay, so you can pick your lines here and try to blend them. If they show up like that, as an example, and you get a good preview, that means they're probably going to work. If you get a bad preview, they're probably not going to work. Okay. You can try to keep going around the curve like that. If you have good luck, they'll go all the way like mine did there, and it's going to make it nice. I would probably try to increase that until it blows up. So maybe 0.25. And it actually went at 0.25, which really surprised me. Now, if I go much more than that, I can see it's running into the sidewalls here. It probably is going to fail. For instance, 375. And it failed. Okay. So once it fit, you just keep going back down. 2.5 is big enough. So that'll be a nice fillet on there. So I'm going to hit OK, apply. Now the thing is, you want to do it on both sides, and if it fails on the other side, which it will sometimes, then just go back to the fillet over here and shrink it in your browser. Okay. So it's stuck at quarter now. You're trying to remember exactly which ones I all did, right? Otherwise it won't look normal. Okay. And you could theoretically mirror that, but it usually doesn't work. Okay. Okay, so that's an example of a fillet, all right? And you probably should maybe do the roof. It kind of blends out the lines a little bit. Okay, like I said, probably do the roof, probably do around the window here. That would look a lot more normal if there's a fillet around that. Same thing with the back window there. It's pretty squared off. Maybe some of these lines in the front, fillet them. Just make it, try to match your car so it's going to look like your car. The next thing on the list was shelling, because you can't, I tell you to shell before you loft and sweep, because usually these are small, skinny items, and shelling them out doesn't really work very good. It usually, when you shell something to a point, a lot of times it'll break. Okay, and it's after the fillet. You have to do all your fillets before you shell too, because of course this corner is gone now. So if I try to shell something and then fillet it, it will not. You won't be able to fill it because it'll fill it too empty. So you got to fill it first before you shell. Make sure you save before you fill it. Okay, you can always turn the fillet off if you're not happy with it. And later on you can cut windows in it. You could add fins to the back if, like, you had an old Mustang that has those louvers on the back. Okay, so shell, you basically pick shell, and remember this is a pretty thin vehicle, or not very big vehicle. It's 10 inches by 10 inches, so an eighth of an inch would be God's plenty. I think most 3D printers will print down about 20 thousandths of an inch thick, so you can go a lot thinner than this even. I'm going to pick, it's looking for a face right here at the very bottom. You can't see it. It says select surfaces to remove. I could at this point pick like the front windshield and stuff, but it's kind of dangerous to do that. I think you're safer just shelling it out and then cutting out what you want. So I'm not going to pick any faces. All right, I'm just going to pick OK, and it'll probably air out. Some of these points, like right there, that real sharp point, will probably make it fail. And see, this is what it does. It might come out of this, it might not. I'm going to pause the video and see if it comes out of it. Okay, it came out of it, but it's got an error. You can expand these and see what the error actually is. Okay, it says the attempted shell operation requires large topography change. Try with a smaller thickness. That usually does take care of it. So it's like locked up. There, let me go it. Okay, so 0.001. So I can't 3D print it. Start out small and see what happens. See if it comes out of it. So I'm gonna hit OK there. And it made it at that. Okay, so later I would go in here and try to make it thicker. So it did survive at 1/1000th of an inch thick. Now that is very, very skinny. So you can't even see it unless you really look at it close. So if I go this shell, and one way to see it is you'd go into View, Visual Style, and Wireframe, or Wireframe with hidden edges. I think that'd probably be the best. Was one, there's a couple of them in here that actually show up pretty nice. Shaded with hidden edges might be nicer. You can't see much of that. Now, it's probably not even going to show up unless I really zoom in. There you can see it. So see, there's a thousandth of an inch thick wall in this. Okay, so it did shell out correctly. So I would double click on this and go up like to 10 thousandths and or 5 thousandths and maybe 20 thousandths until I get it to fail. Okay, but I'm not going to do that right now. So save. Okay, the next one I think was on the list was Loft. Yeah, number 3 is Loft. So Loft makes one object into another object, so that's pretty tough. So I definitely wanted to do a video on that one. So let's go back to a regular. I usually go shaded with edges is the default. Okay. And while I was in that, you can kind of do some pretty crazy stuff here. So you can go to, if you got a fast enough computer, you can go to realistic. Okay, and that gets rid of those edges. And then while you're in realistic, you can do ray tracing, and that'll slow it down, but it'll basically really make it look cool eventually. And once you get the decals and everything on it, it really looks realistic. So let's take that back off. But that's a nice way to kind of see what you got going on there. Shaded with edges. Okay, go back to 3D model. Okay, so to make this a mirror, of course I'd go back and look at the front again. So it looks like my mirror is basically a skinny circle coming out of the sidewall, going to a kind of a rectangle with fillets on it. So that's what I'm going to try to do. Make it kind of match that one. It's a little tough, but you just kind of got to do a little bit of estimating. So maybe it's about 3/4 of an inch by 1/4 inch on there. You can always change the sizes. Just sometimes it's good just to freehand it a little bit. So I would assume the mirror's coming out of a place about right there. So I'm going to need a plane at least inside this a little bit. All right, so I'm going to find a plane, and everybody's got to do this one that's that face. That's the right face, but the wrong point. Okay, so I'm going to go over here, and that is the YZ plane. Now I'm going to go to plane here, and I'm going to do parallel plane through a point. Okay, so I pick that, and I already got this plane selected. Now it's looking for a point to go through. So there's my point. Okay, so I've got a plane now right on that point, and I can, it's probably not deep enough, so I can bring it in maybe another 1/8 of an inch. So I'll do parallel to that plane, parallel plane, offset from plane. So I pick that one, and it's going in the correct direction, maybe 0.25. Okay, all right, so now I want to draw inside there. So on that plane, I'll probably hide this other one. I'll have to look at it. Turn visibility off. So I've got this plane that's bisecting my part pretty. Did I do the right one? I turned the wrong one off. There we go. Let's try this again. Visibility on. Visibility off. Why are they doing the wrong one? All right, I think that one's deep into the car. That's what I want. You can mirror the mirror. So that's kind of, and even the wing. So all right, so on that plane I'm going to draw my first sketch of my loft. So this is a little tricky, but you want to kind of think about where the mirror would be. It's probably going to be, I don't know, right about here, okay? So I'm going to draw a circle on there. Well, I don't like circles. An ellipse. It'll look cooler, okay? So right about on this point, somewhere in there, I'm going to draw it like, be aerodynamic. So coming out like that, okay? Now you can't see it. If you hit function 7, I can see. You can actually, it'll actually break away the stuff in front of it. Then you can see it, okay? So that sketch is finished, close enough, okay? Might be a little bit too small, but oh well. If I want to, now I want to do one that's parallel to the front of the car. So like that one, back at just past that point. So remember where you're at. I'm right here, so I need to go a little farther past that. So I'm going to make a plane parallel to that one through a point, parallel to a point, and pick this same point as I had before, okay? Now I'll make another plane offset from that one and go that way, maybe, I don't know, 0.25. Let's see how much that is. Close. That might not be enough. Let's go 375. I mean, you can always go change it later. You just double click on that plane to change it. Even after you made your design, you can change it by double clicking on that plane. All right, so I need to put the actual mirror face that you would see on that plane. So new sketch. I'll probably hide that plane again. Let's see if I can do it in less than 10 tries this time. So that's the one I want to keep. So this is the one I want gone, I think. Okay. So I'm gonna hit F7 to see where my car is at again. Function F7. Can't see my keyboard. You can see it is hollow on the inside. That's kind of cool. So now I'm gonna go make another ellipse. I'm gonna make a rectangle, right kind of rectangle. Rectangle. I don't know. There's none in here I like. So I'm gonna make 2-point rectangle, put some fillets on it, I guess. So right here's my origin, I think. Where's my origin? Yeah. You gotta be. It's got to be on the outside of the car to see your mirror. So, 2-point rectangle. That's fine. I can always change the sketch later if I don't like it. I'll put some fillets on it. See how quarter's too big. So maybe 0.06. That looks good. Just kind of round it out so it doesn't look so stupid, right? And then finish that, finish sketch. Now you can try a loft from there to there. It's nice to have a guide path. So a guide path has to go from this sketch to this sketch, and it makes it look more realistic instead of going just straight over there. So I'm going to do that. I'm not making you have a guide path because that's pretty hard, but it's still, it does. If you want to look a cooler looking mirror, it does help you get a cooler looking mirror. So on the other plane, the only one we didn't use, that one, I need to do the same thing again, offset through point, maybe right into there, so then I know it's crossing because it's got to be inside there. Okay, now I can draw right on that one. I don't need to make a whole nother one there. So new sketch on that plane. Hit F7, and I probably won't be able to see my other sketch here. I can see it good. Alright, so I need to draw something from here, that sketch to this sketch. Alright, so I'm going to draw an arc, and hopefully that little circle will go into that big circle. I'm going to project geometry, project the center point. Try to. I think I got it. Arc. No, I didn't. Gosh darn it. Try again. Project geometry. So if I hover over this long enough, it ought to give me options. It did. So I hovered over that, and I got point, curve. Which one is it? There's a lot of options here. Try point. I got that one. Good. Alright. I'm going to do the same thing over here. Project geometry. Hover over this until I get what I want here. Okay. Takes a while. Drop it down. Face, work plane. I don't want any of those. Maybe I can put a point on that. Yeah, I was able to put a point on it. Good. So now I'll draw an arc from that point to this point. Although Inventor's points are first, last, and then radius. So, yeah, looks pretty good. I don't know. Finish sketch. Alright, so now we're going to do a loft. All that just to do a loft. Okay, so loft is there. So you pick your first sketch. And I'll probably have to go to View, Visual Style, Hidden again, Wireframe. And I can see my sketch in there. So I pick it. Second sketch, pick it. Okay, you can see what it does. It goes straight over there. It looks stupid. So then you pick guide rail, and I usually pick the middle one. And then I select my guide rail. Okay, but now look at it. It's blended pretty nice. Now you can adjust that guide rail. Go back in that sketch and adjust that. Go back and sketch, adjust that. Go back and sketch, adjust this to make it look even better. Okay, but that's basically how you do it. And then you can see, then you're looking. It's a pretty decent looking mirror, actually, not bad. And then you mirror that to the other side to get the other one. You mirror it across a mid-plane. So we made a mid-plane last class. If you don't have one, you just pick 3 points in the middle. So to go over that one more time real quick, I go to plane, 3 points, which is the most standard way to make a plane, 3 points, and pick 3 points that are in the middle. There's one there, and I want a nice one. I'll pick one in the middle on the other side. There's one. So now I've got a nice mid-plane. I can mirror that across real quick, easily. Just mirror, pick my feature, which is this thing, Go to pick my plane, which is this thing, and hit OK. And sometimes it'll fail, but it didn't fail there. Now I got 2 mirrors, okay? Now I'd make that bigger. That looks too small, but anyway. Okay, so the next one was a sweep. Sweep is the same thing. It's easier, actually. So it's exactly the same thing, except it's a sketch following a guide path, or a profile following a guide path. So you only need one sketch. So like a wing, for instance, I would do on the top of this plane here. I'm just going to do it real fast. I've got a back spoiler, so I don't know if I'd really want a wing on this or not, but just to show you how it works, I'd probably just do it all with arcs. Maybe come to a good spot like, I don't know, something like that. Give it a little bend, not much. Do another one up here, and this one's going to be tight. This is about a half circle. Try to make them tangent so I don't get any lines there. I had it. There, I got a tangent there. And bring it to this one. See if I can get a tangent over there either. It's not letting me, but I could probably force it. So if you want to get rid, there'll be a line here unless I force a tangent by picking that line and this line. And that did a tangent. So this should be a nice wing profile. And then you need to put a plane right here in the middle of this thing, okay? And draw what profile you want to take. So if I finish that sketch and put like this plane straight back there, so I go plane, offset plane through point, pick this plane here, put it through, I don't know, right about in the middle here. I got to find something in the middle. I don't have a point there, so you got to create a point. Create a point in the same place as you create a plane. I'm gonna put one right in the middle of this thing if it lets me. I'm still on something else. Point. I was hoping it'd let me put one in the middle of this, but it ain't. That stinks. I get one? Well, usually it'll let you do that. Let's try right at the beginning of this thing maybe. There's letting me put one. Alright, is that bisecting it? Barely. Alright, I should be able to offset to that and maybe go back another ½ inch or another 1/8 of an inch if I have to. So I'll plane through point. Or you can just offset from and make sure it goes through the middle of that. So let's try that. So I'll do that, and it's going to right direction and maybe 4 inches. And then you go to the side view until you get the right through the middle of your item there. There's my plane and there's my sketch, so it's not enough. So I go sideways 5, 0.8, too far, 0.4. There, I've gotten inside of it a little bit. 0.3. Looks like that's in the middle. You can go to a corner view like this and see it a little bit better. Make sure it's, yeah, it is in there, so that's good. So that's the plane where I want to draw my sketch on. Did I not do it? I think I just exited it out. Okay, try again. Plane, offset from plane. I think I did 5.3. Yep. Got to finish it. Check mark. Okay, so I've got that plane. Now I'll draw my path on that. So new sketch on that. And remember, the path needs to go through your wing, which looks like it's right there. You can go to a corner view to see it better. So I'll probably start right there with my path. So once again, I'm going to use arcs. And I don't know how big a wing you want. There's 3/8. That probably wasn't enough. Try to make all their lines tangent. So go back and make those tangent. I'm not going to do that because of the nature of time here. And then go to the middle. Okay. And I'll probably just mirror it. And again, I'd go back and make all these tangent. It's real easy to do tangent. Might mess it up because I did it so quick, but didn't do too bad. Finish sketch. So now you try to get this thing to follow that with sweep. So sweep, they already picked the profile. Now it wants the path. So I'm going to pick this. And it's probably a stupid looking wing, but path does not intersect profile is recommended for best results. Path to continue, yeah, just do it anyway. It did it anyway. Didn't like it, but it did it. Usually it won't even do it. So my path did not go through my profile, so it kind of messed it up. I thought I did, but just you got to make sure that path goes through the profile. Okay, so now we go back to the visual style and see what we got here, see how bad it looks. That's a pretty wild wing. You can get the idea. I should have went probably straight up, put it straight over, and then put a fillet on the line in between, okay? And it would look better. And then mirror that to the other side to get it. So that is the first 5 items in there at least, and pretty much all the hard ones. You should have done decals and embossing before. I'll show you I'll do them just real quick while we're in the video here, and then we'll be done with the videos. The last part of it is doing assembly. We're going to do the wheels in another video, and I'll see if I can do the flow, but we might not have to do that. Okay, so the decals and embossing. Embossing is basically just putting your name on it or something like that. So on this plane, if that's a plane, I'm going to do a new sketch. It wasn't a plane, of course. So I need a plane underneath there. I'll go back later and turn all these planes off because they get very annoying. So I need a plane below it. So I'm going to take that plane, back to 3D model, offset that plane lower. So -1, so I know it's below the car. That's not below the car. -3. There, that's below the car. Do a sketch on there, a new sketch. Now we did this with the skateboard, so it shouldn't look, and I don't, it's upside down there. So now I basically want to put text on there with your name on it. So text, eighth's not big enough, so maybe 2. And remember, if you want to change the font, you have to highlight it, right? So if I want to change the font to something that doesn't look stupid like that, I gotta highlight it. So times, and it won't be able to do real fancy fonts, but Times New Roman numeral, it should be able to do it. So, and it's backwards and upside down. I have to think about how to fix that. I had it figured out the other day, but now I can't remember. You need to rotate it for sure. So center point, let's just do 90, and it's too big, of course, so double click on it, highlight it all, make it a lot smaller. So 0.5 would be about right, maybe. Yeah, that's a lot better. Put it in the middle. Finish sketch. Okay, so if you want to cut that through the bottom of your car, you can actually extrude cut it in there, which is the same thing as emboss, but emboss will go around curves, simple curves, not complex curves. So I'm going to emboss it because you have to do an emboss. So 0.1 is the depth. I'm going to make it add plastic to it instead of taking it out because it's so thin. I don't think you want to hit wrap to face. I think you just hit OK here. Didn't like that. Switch directions. Okay. Didn't like that. Hit wrap to face. Pick this face. There, it worked. Now if the face is not a flat, a standard circle type curve, it's not a fancy curve, it won't actually go on. So it'll give you an error if you go too fancy, because you can see my lettering on there. Now it's upside down, so I'll have to figure out what I want to do there. There's a way around, I can't remember off the top of my head. I'll put that in the notes once I remember here. Decals real easy, but don't do that till last, okay? It's one of the last things you do, but I'm going to do it right now. I'll turn it off after I get done just to show you how it works. So first you got to bring your images back. So the images we remember were on our very beginning and in our second sketches. So like the top one, you can only do a couple of them, but there's the image. I'm going to right click on that. It says it's visible already. Probably got to make the sketch visible. There we go. Now I can see it. So I'm going to decal this onto there. Okay. So to do that, you go to decal. Okay. And it wants you to pick the image, so that one. And that wants you to pick a face, which that might be a little tougher, but I'm going to try. Right there. Okay. Chain face is the wrapped face. I don't remember if you pick both of them. We'll find out. I don't think you have to pick them. Nope, you don't have to. And if you do the front and side, it'll actually turn your car into the color of your image, which is kind of cool. Okay. So now if I turn that off, you'll kind of get the idea. So I'll hide the visibility of that. and you can see it's kind of making the car look like the original. Now it's not going to look exactly like it, but it'll look pretty close. So you'll want to do that to the front and the side, and it'll look a lot closer, okay? Of course, you want to cut holes in there for your windows after you fillet it and after you shell it. And whatever other items I have in the notes there, I'll read through it, and if I'll turn the video back on if I notice any more. Okay, to get that text to work, I had to flip normal on the plane itself. So basically that text is on this plane. So I'm going to pick that plane, right click on it, and go flip normal, okay? And now it brings it right side up. Now I have to move the text yet, but then it all should work out a little nicer. So center it on there, and then I had to emboss it. I had to get rid of my emboss, of course, because it didn't work until I did that. So now if I emboss it, profile is that, and plane would be up to face, pick that face, hit OK, and it didn't work. Okay, so let's go back to the emboss. It's probably going the wrong direction. So go that direction and then try it. There we go. Now we've got it on there. Now go back to where I can see it. So view, visual style, shade with edges, and there, it's actually right, okay? So do all your embossing. Now your embossing, if one is over the top of the other, sometimes the embossing won't work. So the side view might not work since I already did the front or the top over it, okay? So pick the one you want to do. And of course finish the wings and stuff before you emboss it so it looks better. I think that's enough for this video.